Steve Lavin says that, we're in the tournament. Now, is that just grandstanding for the people that make the selection? Because we think that loss probably knocks St. John's out. What's your take?
Is he saying he's in the NIT?
He's saying NCAA.
He's not in the NCAA tournament. I mean, they're 1-7 against the top 50. Their resume just doesn't say that they're an NCAA tournament team. I think towards the end of the season they were playing like an NCAA tournament team, and they've got pieces that have potential to be really special. I mean, their backcourt with Jordan and D'Angelo Harrison is an explosive, aggressive backcourt. Sampson is a tough matchup, but they don't have a resume. When you start comparing resumes, and I love Steve Lavin, I think he's done a terrific job bringing energy to St. John's. I grew up a St. John's fan growing up in Long Island, but they're not an NCAA tournament team.
Should they have done better with their talent, Seth?
I think, they had issues early on in the season. Think about this. You talk about the leaders of their basketball team. All right, D'Angelo Harrison, you would say he's one of the leaders, right? He was suspended the year before.
Yep.
Rasheed Jordan, he had to be suspended. When you have to suspend your leaders, then who are your followers going to follow? And that's the problem. I mean, to have a really good basketball team, all right, you've got to have great trust and great chemistry. And to do those two things, you got to have great leadership. And a coach can't coach his team and coach the locker room. You got to have someone coach the locker room. The guy that coaches the locker room is your leaders. I think the biggest problem early in the season, they were void of any locker room leadership, and that's the problem. They couldn't sustain any effort. They couldn't win close games. They weren't tough enough. They weren't connected enough because they lacked leadership. Towards the end of the season, they got better at it. But even in the games that they won, you think about that Marquette game. D'Angelo Harrison, he knocks down a three from, the Bronx.
Yep.
All right? Was that a good shot?
No.
It was a good shot because it went in, and that's the only reason it was a good shot. So, if your team isn't really connected and you don't have great leadership, you can only be so good.
All right, Seth, now on the flip side, with that win, did Providence get in, or do they still have the win?
I think it kept them alive. I think that, Providence, they have 3 wins against the top 50, which is a good thing. They have a lot of losses in the top 100. I like their team. I think Bryce Cotton is a kid who's connected with his teammates. I think Kadeem Batts is a physical front court guy. They can't afford to lose to Seton Hall. I mean, the reality is, as well as Seton Hall's playing, and Kevin's doing a great job with his team, a loss to Seton Hall, a team right at the cusp of top 100, would eliminate them. I think if they get to the finals of the Big East tournament, as you compare their resume, to some of the other teams that are at the kind of the bottom of that bubble, I think they compare favorably. A lot of things are out of their control, though, because this thing is so fluid right now, Michael. You think about the teams that are still playing have opportunities to improve their resume. Minnesota has an opportunity to improve its resume. Tonight, St. Joe's improved its resume. So certain things are out of their control, but I think if they win tonight, I think they're in pretty good shape.
In the ACC, does Pitt have enough big-time wins to comfortably get in?
Well, until today, I would have said no. They were, to me, they had one win against the field. That was a win against a Stanford team that played well last night and beat Arizona State. Today, I got to believe I'd say they're in. I think the win against North Carolina playing very well down the stretch. It's basically a road game when you're playing in the ACC tournament in Greensboro, and you're one of the Big East schools. Believe me, I experienced that. It's not an easy deal. I would say this win today gives them another top 20, gives them a top 25 win, gives them another win against the field. I would think they would be in right now.
Now, Seth, do you think that Nova lost the number 1 seed with that loss early in the Big East?
Yeah, I do think they did. They only have one win against the top 25 right now. If you look at their non-conference strength of schedule, it's like 62. I love what Jay's done with his team. If you think about this, they have one legitimate low-post player. They don't even play through that guy. What they do have is they have a lot of tough matchups. Javon Pinkston, he's a tough matchup. James Bell, he's a tough matchup. Dalian Hilliard, he's a tough matchup. He's done a great job of playing undersized, forcing people to play his tempo, attacking matchups, kind of scrambling and creating some offense out of the defense. But if you tell me, are they a number 1 seed? No. They don't look like a number 1 seed to me either. To me, the eyeball test, even with the win against Kansas early in the season and the win against Iowa early in the season, to me, they don't look like a number 1 seed.
Keeping an eye on that Pitt game, Seth, 75-68 with 1 minute and 21 seconds to go, so nothing official just yet. St. Joe's in the A-10, what do you think of them?
I think they played themselves in. I think that St. Joe's down the stretch, and they've got some tough losses. They got the bad loss to Temple, the bad loss to LaSalle, but they closed the season on a high note. They have, down the stretch, they've played really well. I think the win today against Dayton, the team I think is probably going to be in, I think that win probably solidified their place. And how about this? This is crazy. Think about the new Big East. You think about the ACC, and the A-10 is going to have more bids probably than both of those.
It's amazing. It really is.
I mean, think about it. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yes. Is it? I mean, I've been paying close attention to the Big East, Seth, and I've loved the Big East ever since it started. It just doesn't seem like the same thing to me. Obviously, it's not. It's got different teams, teams that just don't associate to me in the Big East. Is it less for you?
You know, I grew up, with Big East basketball. I was at Pitt when we the first basically realignment when we were in the Atlantic 10 and we went to the Big East. And think about what the Big East did for Pitt basketball. I mean, it basically created a renaissance of Pitt basketball. It was the vehicle that enabled Pitt to build the program that they have today, the Peterson Center and the ownership and the energy that's created at Pitt right now for basketball. But it isn't the same. The positive about the new Big East is there's some commonality in the league. There are teams in that league that have a common mission. That's a good thing. The thing that's missing, leagues are defined by their best rivalries. You think about the best leagues. You think about football. You think about Ohio State and Michigan. Leagues to me are defined by their rivalries, and that's the thing that kills me about realignment, because we're losing all these great rivalries that we grew up with. I mean,
right? It's going to take years to build new ones.
Yeah, because what was better than Syracuse and Connecticut?
Yep.
Syracuse and Georgetown. And, 10 years from now, we're not going to remember those great rivalries. The history of the game has been affected by greed. And, I understand it, but, to me, it really has hurt, especially in the game of basketball, it's really hurt the college basketball game.